Hey guys, what's up? Today I thought we would do a follow-up video to the What Do I Feed My Tegu video I did a while back. Ever since I put it out, I kind of wanted to do a follow-up video where I really show exactly what I feed my Tegu. In that video, I really wanted to show off all the options, and while I have fed all those items at some point to my Tegu, I necessarily don't always make sure to incorporate all those into his diet. So I really wanted to make a video showing exactly what I concentrate on feeding wise and offer, and how I kind of go about thinking about that. So I really refined it since then. You know, your husbandry is always evolving, so things have changed. It's still a combination of some stuff I showed in that last video, but it's definitely a different focus than it was then. So anyway, let's get to it. I'll show you exactly what I concentrate on and kind of talk about why, and maybe Frapp will join us. But anyway, guys, make sure you check that lower right-hand corner and hit that subscribe button. Hit that bell as well, and let's get to the video. So here we are at Frappuccino's enclosure. He usually comes out when I keep the door open or open it up, so I did open it. He is still sleeping though, I think, so I don't know if he'll join us. But we will see. We'll see if he comes out, especially if he starts smelling some of this stuff. I lined it all up here with most of the stuff I offer him. I do offer a wide diversity of sort of fruits, greens, vegetables. Just because it's kind of nice to always keep switching that up, since you want them to really get into their fruits, vegetables, and greens. It's really important for them, so I always try to mix it up as much as possible. But most of them are here, most of the staples. I just wanted to, quickly say that some of them aren't, and I can throw those in word-wise. But first, let's look at the meats. These are the things that the Tegus really love and really look for. They will often sort through their greens and veggies and stuff like that to get to these, so you don't want to offer too much in quantity. You really want to overwhelm them more so with their veggies, fruits, and their greens. If they're hungry, they will definitely eat it. Frapp even enjoys some of them. He really likes kiwis, so he'll actually seek them out. But if you give too much meat, they'll just focus on the meat and knock everything else out. So you really got to watch how much meat you put in. But these are the three main meats I offer. I sometimes will offer fish, like farm-raised Atlantic salmon, but only if he's going through a tough shed, because fish oil is really nice for that. But mainly, I rotate between these three. I have here ground turkey. I get an organic kind just from the supermarket, just to make sure it's a little bit better in quality. Over here, I got some, I think it's chicken hearts, livers, and gizzards. It might be turkey, but either one is fine. That's what he's going to have today, although it has to defrost. And then I offer 1/3 of his diet being whole prey. Here I got some small rats. You can offer like quail and a mix of stuff, but I think it's important to include probably 1/4 to 1/3 of their diet just being whole prey, and he really likes them. He really enjoys them, but I think whole prey is pretty important for a Tegu. I do think they don't absolutely need it. I think there's other diets that you can do to that don't include it, but I do think there are benefits. But those are the three main sort of meats and stuff I offer. Those are very simple. When you really start getting diverse, like I said, is when you start looking at the greens, the fruits, the veggies. I have here, and I'll quickly kind of go through what I have here for fruits, veggies, and greens, and then talk about sort of the ones I don't have here, but I typically offer. But I have here an organic bell pepper. I usually get these pretty often because they hold moisture well, and that's good for hydration. It's kind of a mood thing whether he likes them or not. They do have a strong taste, so it's kind of, what he's feeling. But I do like how well they hold moisture. So bell pepper's pretty good. Here is some squash, butternut squash. You can really offer any type of squash. Spaghetti squash. I'm trying to think of what else. Yellow squash. Usually they are pretty good, and I typically always go organic. I'm just going to say that now instead of saying organic every time, just because I like to ensure it's on a higher quality type, area or something. It might also just be for my peace of mind, because a lot of non-organic stuff is still pretty decent, but I typically always go organic. But squash is usually really good, so any type of squash is pretty good. And then kiwis. Kiwis are his favorite. He actively looks for kiwis. So I get these kiwis from the supermarket as well. And those are really the three main ones, I would say. I'm trying to think. He likes mango. I'll get mango a decent amount, especially because it adds a kind of a diverse flavor in here. Some of these are not too intense or not super enjoyable, but mango is, it's pretty tasty. It has a unique kind of taste to it, so I'll include mango from time to time. Like I said, you could kind of diversify what kind of squash you use. I would say those are the main ones. Sometimes if we're talking treats and stuff like that, something you want to give rarely, I'll give organic banana or something like that. Those are pretty good, but definitely don't want to offer it too much. I can't really think of anything other treat-wise I do in terms of veggies and fruits, though. So let's move on to the greens now that we kind of covered those. Greens are very important and probably the least loved by the Tegus, so you really gotta kind of be unique about it. I actually usually grind them up in the food processor and then kind of include them that way, so he can sort through them less easily, and usually they kind of adhere to some of the meats and stuff like that. Really works well with ground turkey. So you got to kind of be creative. You could also kind of do some soaking in egg yolk, raw egg yolk. That does really good. They love egg yolk. So you could do that, but you don't want to do it too often or too much, because that does give a lot of runny poops. But what we have here, and people always look at me weird when I buy this in the supermarket because I don't think anybody else does. But what we have here are Belgium endives. They actually work really well. They grind up pretty easy in the food processor. They retain moisture well, and Frapp actually does not seem to mind them too much. So these work pretty well, at least in my opinion. Otherwise, I have Kale. Kale is probably one of the least offered ones that I typically offer, if that makes sense. He's kind of iffy about Kale also, but I do Kale. I have mustard greens here as well. Some of the other ones I don't have here is, let's say, turnip greens. Sometimes I'll include that. Collard greens from time to time, although I wouldn't say they should be offered too much. Sometimes they're argued to have some pitfalls, so I don't offer them as much as probably the other groups. But I would say a mix of those 4 or 5, if you want to count collard greens, works pretty well, and that's really what I typically do. And that's probably really what I concentrate on. There's nothing that I offer sparingly for greens. It's usually just those main 4, maybe 5. So that's typically what I do in terms of the overall diet. When I do whole prey, I just give whole prey. And I only add in these fruits, veggies, and greens when I do the ground turkey, which, like I said, it works very well with, and the hearts, livers, gizzards. So that's typically what I offer. I think it works really well. Frapp has a healthy weight, a healthy attitude, lean muscle, so I have nothing to believe this is not working. Of course, you want to put calcium on it and stuff like that. Make sure it's defrosted, all that typical stuff. I will give some warnings to some of this stuff. They do easily freezer burn in some situations, and when we're talking more about the fruits, veggies, and greens. I have a small fridge, which I separate from my main fridge, that I put this in just because I want to keep this stuff separately, mostly because my girlfriend doesn't want to open up the freezer and see some rats. But typically the greens will freezer burn in there, so I had to move that to the main fridge so it doesn't, and that just kind of ruins all of them. Sometimes they could be saved, but for the most part, it just doesn't work out. These can be freezer burned too. I actually moved the squash to the main fridge and stuff because it was getting freezer burned. This one actually does look a little freezer burned, but you do want to be aware of that. So you could really easily lose some of this stuff if you put it in too cold of conditions. So kind of just be aware of your placement in the fridge and make sure it's not like directly near something really cold or something. Before wrapping up the video, I did want to give some additional context. For one, Frapp is 1.5 years old, and a baby will probably have a different diet, probably up to a year-old. They probably will have more inverts, and I definitely think inverts have a good place in a Tegu diet. Even as an adult, it's just hard to come by inverts that are large enough that they wouldn't eat like a whole colony, like my whole doobie roach colony. So that's why I don't really include them too much, but as a baby, you'll probably have more inverts and a little bit more of a diet shakeup. Also, I feed him twice a week. You can do 3 times. I feed Monday, Friday. You could do a Monday, Wednesday, Friday. But I tend to give a little bit too much meat. Then I'm pretty generous with that. So I thought it would be better to do 2 times a week so I can not worry too much about giving too much meat. And that works out pretty well. But I think you could do 3 times a week. You would just give a little bit less meat. every meal because you're doing it one more day each week. So I did want to give that context. I thought that would be important to kind of add into this discussion we're having. Well, that's about it for this video. Make sure to subscribe in the lower right-hand corner. I would really appreciate it. We're coming up on the first year mark of this channel and the first 100 videos. So maybe we'll be celebrating that pretty soon. Maybe we'll do something special. I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. I appreciate it. I'll see you next time.